Margaret Anderson and Jane Heap came to Greenwich Village from Chicago in 1917, bringing their literary magazine, The Little Review, with them. The Review was on the forefront of modern and avant-garde literature. It was always a hard sell. Upton Sinclair canceled his subscription early on, claiming he couldn't understand a word in it. Over 3 years, the Review published James Joyce's Ulysses in installments, its first appearance in print anywhere. Reactions were not positive. The critical establishment stood mute. Readers wrote furious letters complaining about the filth. 4 times over 3 years, issues of the magazine were seized and destroyed by the U.S. government as obscene. The Review also published several poems by one of the most strikingly odd characters in the village, the Baroness Elsa von Freytag-Loringhoven. The Baroness's poems trampled a fine line between Dada and doggerel. The first one printed in the Review, wickedly dedicated to Marcel Duchamp, was one of her best. It began, "The sweet corners of thine tired mouth, austere, so world-old, tired to nobility, to more, to shame, to hatred of thyself, so noble soul, so weak a body, thine body is the prey of mice." Other poems freely mixed various languages, real and invented, plus private puns and raw sound. Readers were violently divided about them, some hailing the Baroness as an avant-garde genius, others begging the editors to stop printing her indecipherable gibberish. For a few years, the Baroness was a village legend and fixture. Everyone wrote about her, gossiped about her, drew and painted and photographed her. Today, some scholars have tried to elevate her reputation from troubled eccentric to pioneering feminist and artist. In her biography, Baroness Elsa, the scholar Irene Gamble pieced together the fragments of Elsa's chaotic life. She was born Elsa Plutz in 1874 in a small German town. As a teenager, she escaped her abusive household for Berlin, a vibrant art scene in the 1890s, where she studied art, cultivated androgynous fashions, posed in her flesh-colored tights for racy vaudeville tableaux, was a chorus girl, and threw herself into a whirlwind of sexual relations that left her with syphilis. An artist who knew her at that point recalled that she, quote, exploited men financially, physically, and spiritually, and created a great deal of misfortune. She and her second husband, Felix Paul Grieve, lived and traveled on money given him by a former gay lover, who then had Grieve jailed for a year on fraud charges. In 1909, to escape crushing debts, Elsa and Grieve faked his suicide and fled to America, ending up in rural Kentucky, where he abandoned her. Elsa made her way to New York City, where in 1913 she married the Baron Leo von Freytag-Loringhoven. She was 39, gave her age as 28 on the marriage license, and concealed the fact that she was still married to Grieve. Leo was 28, a former army officer and fallen scion of a noble house. They honeymooned at the Ritz, then he returned to his job as a busboy. When the Great War broke out, he sailed to Europe to fight for Germany. His ship was taken by the French before it reached harbor, and he sat out the war a prisoner. He never fired a shot until 1919, when he put a bullet through his own brain. When the Baroness moved to the village, her behavior became increasingly, often desperately bizarre. It was said she was unhampered by sanity. Visitors to her tenement hovel described the filth and stench, with varying numbers of stray dogs and cats prowling among the clutter of objects she brought in from the streets to use in her sculptures and outfits. She also shoplifted art supplies from various stores, resulting in several arrests. As her personal hygiene grew lax, a reek stood out purple from her body, according to William Carlos Williams. Over time, no village event was complete without an appearance by the Baroness in one of her strange get-ups. When she first walked into the Little Review's office, she was wearing a bolero jacket, a kilt, spats, a multitude of dime store bracelets, two old tea-balls hanging from her breasts, and a black tam o' shanter with ice cream spoons dangling from it. On that first visit, the chronically impoverished Baroness stole $5 in stamps. She later stole silverware from Jane Heap and raided the Review's mail for subscription payments. For hats, she wore peach baskets, waste paper baskets, and once a wedding cake. She attended a costume ball wearing parrot feather eyelashes and wouldn't leave the stage until she was awarded a prize. At a reception for the opera diva, Marguerite d'Alvarez, one side of her face was decorated with a canceled postage stamp, Anderson recalled. Her lips were painted black. Her face powder was yellow. She wore the top of a coal scuttle for a hat, strapped on under her chin like a helmet. Two mustard spoons at the side gave the effect of feathers. She greeted the famous coloratura with regal condescension. When d'Alvarez proclaimed that she sang for humanity, the Baroness loudly scoffed, "I wouldn't lift a leg for humanity." Women on the scene tended to admire the Baroness's bold individuality and frank sexuality. The men tended to be traumatized by her feral advances. The artist George Biddle recorded that he fled from her in terror when she tried to kiss him. And the poet Wallace Stevens reputedly wouldn't venture below 14th Street after she made a pass at him. Marcel Duchamp, for whom she declared a fierce passion, was more suavely resistant. Evidently, only Williams, the hunky obstetrician and poet from New Jersey, was man enough to go toe-to-toe with her. He met her when she was released from jail for shoplifting an umbrella. The Baroness conceived a ferocious desire for him, and when he demurred, she stalked him in print, in New York, and in New Jersey, where she physically attacked him. On their next meeting in Central Park, he punched her in the mouth, knocking her flat on the ground. Police hauled her away. Her heart broken, the Baroness shaved her head and lacquered it vermilion, then stole the black crepe from the door of a house in mourning and made a dress of it, Anderson recalled. Baroness Elsa left New York for Paris in 1923. When she died in 1927, having left the gas on in her room as she went to sleep, it was not clear whether she'd intended suicide or was merely careless. In recent years, some historians have claimed that the upended urinal called Fountain that shocked the New York art scene in 1917, which has always been credited to Duchamp, was actually Baroness Elsa's creation. She did make sculptures out of found objects, including plumbing. So far, the bulk of the evidence leans toward Duchamp, but the arguing isn't done yet, and the lingering controversy seems a fitting legacy for them both.